Welcome to this episode of the $1 Million Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of $1 Million Mastermind. I'm here with Joe Ward, and we're having fun talking about winning and the advantages to you from continuing to move forward in your career in learning, understanding, and exposing yourself to other winners. And so welcome back, Joe.
Awesome. Listen, it's been great.
It's been a lot of fun for me. And one of the things that I would, last time we were talking about the advantage of the better and clearer you get at seeing things, you can reach more people. And that means of the people you're talking to, more of them can be successful, or they can be as successful as if they're capable, of X, let's just say on a scale of 10, they come in as a 2, we all come in as duds because we don't know anything. Mm-hmm. But if their potential is 7 out of 10, you help them reach that 7. And then maybe some of them, they really want it, can go on and become 8 or 9s. You don't know, but you can help most of them be successful. And here's the other advantage of that. And I wanted to wait before I put this in front of you. That insight, seeing your business clearly. You talked in the last episode about the most important thing and focusing on the most important thing. What the light bulb for me about that was, we all know the Pareto principle or Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. 20% of the people do 80% of the work, 20% of the activity gets 80% of the results. But what I've always focused on, I don't know where it came from, but I always focus on the 20% of the 20%. Because I got 24 hours in the day.
Right.
How can I focus on something that's going to make all the other dominoes, the Archimedes principle. If you can focus, and it's like, you don't just aim at the target, you aim at the bullseye in the target. And then if you miss, you've got a great margin for error. We talk about, bow hunting. My son and I have always done bow hunting, and mainly because of him, he was only interested in archery coming up. But in archery, especially in hunting, you aim at a spot. Like if it's deer, you don't aim at like the front of the deer or the head or the lungs or the back. You aim at a hair on the deer. You lock in your concentration. And they have this phrase, he was saying the other day, we remind ourselves of these things. And he said, someone had told him the smaller the target, the smaller the miss, because you're aiming there. And the point is that if you focus, the more you focus in on one spot, exactly what do you want to have happen today? And you referred to that earlier, like what is the point? And I was going to tell you, like with meditation never meant anything to me. It's like, what am I going to think about? I want to think about this. I'm going to sit in a room and empty myself and have blackness in my mind. And then the Bible says, don't just cast out demons, out of a house, because then 7 worse will come in. You want to put some good thoughts into your head. Absolutely. And that's what you're doing with reading 10 positive pages a day, and exposure is like, well, if I'm meditating, how can I make that? And then finally it came to me, pray, you idiot, connect with God, read the scripture, have a quiet time, but have a focus to the quiet time. And that is, I'm not just going to, there's all kind of spiritism and mystical, this, that, and the other, that's nonsense, but there is a creator, and he made himself pretty well known. And so there is a Bible, and depending on what you believe, that's what I believe. And why don't I just focus on that and then focus on that line of communication? Now I have a purpose to the meditation.
Right. The concept that you were sharing, now about 2 years ago, I started working with Frank Dillon.
Right.
also in our industry and in our company. And it was basically, I did the exact same thing, Larry. I sought Frank out. He's another multi-million-dollar earner in your organization.
Right.
With our company, and I sought him out because here was my thought process. I knew I needed to grow a massive base shop over a long period of time to be able to perpetuate, the growth, this next wave within my organization. And in all depictions in my own mind, I felt like he had done that the best of anybody in the last, let's say, 20 years over a long period of time. And he reminded me, confirmed with me the very concept that you're sharing. And it is, now let me go back to what you said a little bit earlier to give the difference. Because you really got two organizations you've got to kind of navigate at the same time. You have your think of it as in starters and subs. I got that from Ivan Earl, and so you already talked about that one, and that is your people that are just good people, but they're probably not going to be transcendent leaders inside your organization. But boy, are they important. And the thing with them is, and this is a term that just kind of popped into my head by what you said, my job is to get maximum performance efficiency out of them. Help them to be the best they can be for them. What are they here for? They're only here to make an extra $300, $400, $500 a month. Unbelievable. I'm going to show you how to do that. And you're going to be a part of a great team while you're doing it. But that's not going to get you big ever by any stretch of the imagination. But I know a lot of young leaders inside our industry that don't do a good job at cultivating those people, because those people are going to keep you afloat. They're going to keep you in business. They're going to keep you propelling forward while you're waiting on that transcendent leader. Now, as those people come in, the concept is to get big, you must get small, real small. And this is what Frank helped me with. And what he did is he taught me to take a small percentage of the organizations, the one that you have identified as your next vice presidents, the ones that have the goodies, they're showing up, they're plugging in. They don't have to be tremendous performers. They just have to have the will and the plug-in factor, and they're trying, right? Everybody wants a superstar leader, but you don't want to grow them and help develop them. But for you to grow and develop them, you've got to set them aside. You mentioned spiritually, and we were talking from Christianity standpoint. Well, there are a few billion Christians all over the world, but Christ only trained 12.
And of that he had his inner circle of three.
Right. I think that was Matthew,
Peter, James,
John,
and
James.
Yeah, Peter, James, and John.
Peter, James, and John. Absolutely. So there is the concept that you are talking about. And so I did that now about 2.5 years ago from Frank's instruction. And here's what he told me. At that time, and using our own industry terms, I'm doing 25 or 30,000 in life insurance premium a month inside my base shop. He told me, make those changes. Let's get a group of about 5 to 7 leaders. You deal directly with them, about 3 times a week. And he said, this is what he told me. He said, inside 4 months, you'll be back at 100,000. And yeah. I didn't believe him, but I trusted him based on, his track record. Right. And we did that. And if I be gosh darn, 4 months later, we did 100. 2 months later, we did 170 inside my base from the very
How did that compare? How did that compare to some of the biggest numbers you've done before?
That was the largest base shop month I have ever had.
And so you went from getting started and implementing the new thing to the biggest training center numbers you'd ever had.
Absolutely. And you know what? And it really had to do with
You
the
got
things
big
that
by
you
getting small.
absolutely.
Small with a focus of who you focused on, right?
Absolutely. And my message was very clear because I had receptor people. One of
Right.
the things that happen with people as they're trying to get big is that their message is falling on deaf ears because they're spreading their message they're casting too far of a net, right? They
Right.
need to get way more focused, right? And
Right.
so their message, see, I'm always telling my team that there is energy exchange from a leadership level and for those that are trying to become leaders. Energy exchange. I give of my energy, my information, and knowledge. You return that back to me. You fill my cup back up with what? Growth and production. So when I'm out here, if I'm building an organization and I'm giving of my energy, information, and knowledge to way too many people, it's not coming back in terms of growth and
Right.
production. Well,
Yeah.
now I start to get depressed or my energy level goes down. My stores become empty. And now all of a sudden, I stop the message where the message was not the problem. It was the receiver of the
Right.
message.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whitelmwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up.
Right. I used to tell our guys, I said, because I was pretty blunt, but I said, there's two kind of people, producers and parasites. And I said,
Here.
you're in here. I'm speaking, you're taking up space. You're breathing my air in my training center. I'm projecting. Now, you got to pay me back. You got to go to work. And and if you don't, you're a parasite. You're a black hole. We don't need any black holes. You don't build a business with a black hole. You don't build a business with a parasite. Now, some people are super productive, some people are a little productive, but the thing is, everybody's got to be active, and everybody got to do some of the things that allow them to get lucky, if nothing else. You can, because if you're busy, you can get lucky. But if you sit and you can always tell there's an excitement level with people who work and make an effort. You don't even know where their numbers are. When you see them, you can tell they've been working because they've been having experiences. They've been meeting people. They've been having eye-opening things happen in their mind. They're moving. And you could just sit, like you talked about the energy, you can sense that energy. You might find this interesting, but it'll be out sometime soon. But last week I was talking to my buddy, John Clendenin, who's a ski Hall of Fame guy.
I've heard you talk about it before.
Well, we finally chased John down because he's always busy. But he was talking about how he's expanding his school, and he was getting ready to go to a meeting with his key instructors. And, he made the point, he's always meeting and spending time and getting input and everything with them, but he's growing his bit from being able to spend his time with them. He's been able to open up schools in Steamboat and Vail and Breckenridge and, wherever, out in Tahoe, and the ski industry has been consolidated among like 2 major behemoth type companies. And so, the same company, if you break in and you get into Vail, you can, the people who can get you into Heavenly out in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe. And so but you can't expand if you don't have the people to go out there and run the program. But he said, so he's got these people, but they've got to run this program that he has. He's got a very simple, but he's very precise about the words he uses. He only has a few of them, but he said there's like 10, 20 things behind each word. You got to understand it, and you've got to make sure you don't turn an instructor loose on the hill out there doing something, because they rotate classes from day to day with instructors. And he said, you want the people to hear the same message from different instructors every day, so it has a chance of getting through to everybody, you know. But
Larry, that is in our industry, Larry, that is a field trainer perspective, and it is the most crucial component to building the environment for a big organization that those individuals eventually become vice presidents. It's probably one of the most important things that I have focused on in my career, is getting those field trainers to be on the same, sheet of music that I am on, right? It just reminds me of what Shane Rubin used to say, that you can have 10 superstar leaders, but they're all running different systems. Give me 10 mediocre leaders, but they're all on the same system, on the same page. And he said, I'll beat you badly every single time. And I've always kind of approached my business from the same perspective of the gentleman you are talking about, that as long as I can get my field trainers right, everything else is going to take care of itself. And that goes back to the point that we were making, is that you spend your time, if there's a message we're trying to send out to people, spend your time with your field trainers / full-timers, because number one, that's where your first level of your number one level of effectiveness is going to be. And number two, that is where your future lies. Your future doesn't lie in your entire organization. If you've got 100 people showing up on your various meetings or whatever the case may be, there's only 10 or 12 of them. That's the actual business. Those people, you need to be in their consciousness, in their mind. Side note, going back to distractions from an earlier one, you need to be in their lives.
Well, the payoff you get is, as you build a business, it's like the E-Myth. You want to make sure you're building a business that'll run if you're not there. And if you're not doing what we're talking about here, all you're doing is giving yourself a job. Now, it's hard for all of us to get to the point where we realize we don't have to do it all, because the more you do something, you get really good at it, and you think, I'm indispensable. And it's like,
which is not good.
Like even on the big hitter call, in the beginning, I would call the guests, I would set the appointment, I'd send them the number, I did everything. I would read the announcements. I would do this, that, and the other. It went on for years. I got to do it. I got to be, it's me. So anyway, Bill Arender got me thinking. He said, this has got to continue. If something happens to you too important to the company, you got to be thinking about how to set this up. This can continue if you're not around. And so I thought, well, I'd get Adam involved, because, I've tried a variety of things, but Adam is, works with me in the business. But I said, I literally thought to myself, well, what can I get him to do? And then, when you say, I need to, this is their thing about getting in that space, and I've got to get in the space where it can get done if I don't do it. And see, that's what John Clendenin is doing with his ski instructors, because this goes back to the statement you made earlier. It's not important that you do it. It's important that it gets done.
I would say empower others, get big.
Right. And
I was like that too. Listen, a lot of your listeners too, there's something unique about strong entrepreneurial leaders. We're also control freaks. So you have to fight that, what is actually a positive within you, but it's an operational long-term hazard, right? You gotta let go of the reins and allow other people to take responsibility so that they can spread their wings and fly. As I built a business, it was always very important to me that I was the type of leader or quote unquote manager that allowed entrepreneurs to be entrepreneurs. I was never the person, Larry, that said, hey, you got to show up at the office at this time and make calls from this time to this time. Then you can take lunch, and then you can have, this and, do interviews at this time and that time. Go have dinner with your family. Listen, if I'm talking to the right person, they're an entrepreneur. They don't want another job. They're going to figure it out. I just need to give them the framework and what the expectations are. Then they are supposed to figure out how to make that happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. But you see these leaders that are overbearing in terms of their leadership style. But what you see generationally on that, Larry, is they don't have big leaders. Now, we know these leaders in our industry. They're great leaders. They make a lot of money. But when you look at their organizations, Larry, they don't have what you have and what I'm trying to build, which are transcendent leaders that if something happened to me tomorrow, it wouldn't change my business in the slightest. Now, that doesn't take anything away from me. It means I set a foundation where leaders can be as good as they want to be and operate within the system that we provided.
Well, and the thing is, I would add to that, Joe, is you start with, you teach them meticulously the fundamentals.
Yes.
And then you get, once they got the fundamentals, now it's a matter of doing something with them. They're never going to know the fundamentals until they do something with it. So then you give the framework and the expectations. And now we say, little bird, fly, get out of the nest and flap those wings, and those wings are never going to develop unless you challenge them. And so what I was going to say about Clendenin, he broke his ankle to where he couldn't even be on the mountain. And then he's had, like 5 operations. But the deal is, we never know when we're going to break an ankle. You know what I'm saying? We never know when we're going to be knocked out of action. And so you want to work as fast as possible to turn your business to where it all comes from you. That's where it's got to start. You only got one employee, you. But as quickly as possible, you want to integrate some new people in. And what I was going to point out to you, we diverted, as we always do. But when you see clear yourself, you develop not only can you train better, but you can see clear what is the most important activity and build your system around that, and know you can kind of assume the other things will work out with a little bits and pieces of your time, or hire someone to do that because that's not that important. But you have your eye on the ball of the most important thing, and you can build a system that will allow even average, ordinary people to do it, because you break it down in like an assembly line type thing. That was a genius of Henry Ford that he made. In fact, they say part of the thing about a genius, he'll unravel a complex issue into simple parts and break it down where you can assign little pieces to just ordinary people who don't no way they could understand all 80 steps, but they can do these 8. And if they do these 8 and the next person do those 8, they don't need to know any, and they can be phenomenally successful doing that. And so that's the other advantage of what you're turning yourself into as you drive yourself to improve and get clear in understanding your role as a leader, how things work. And, the benefits cascade. They're cascading benefits, not only in training, but even in building and running your systems. And so thanks so much, Joe. This has been incredible.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementing.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.